Her series on Finishing Fridays. And what I want to share with you today is one of my finishing sequences, but I also want to make sure that you understand the basic cycle that you always should be going on in finishing. And I'll just talk to you about how I do it with this particular cycle or sequence. I really like the feel of smooth, doesn't have to be glossy, but really smooth, silky feel of wood when it's finished. I don't like to have, I'm not a fan of wood open grain wood that's been finished and you feel the pores and you feel the texture come across there. So almost all my projects, if I have an open grain wood, I always grain fill. And I'm going to talk to you about using a different product to do that and some of the choices you have. But I also want to show you the one set of sequences that I often use, particularly on things things like boxes, things that you really feel and touch a lot. I would never do this on a cutting board. I'd never do it on something that's used in the kitchen because I'm using some products in here that you really don't want to use for anything you're going to be that's going to be touching food. But what I'm going to be demonstrating this with is sapelli. Sapelli's got an open grain, has beautiful grain when it's finished properly. But other open grain woods like ash and oak, even walnut, others, it does equally well. I've got some sample boards up here. You get a chance to take a look at a little bit later on. You'll be able to see what they are. There's some basic steps that we should always be going through in finishing. And I'm going to mention those first and then talk to you about how I apply it in this sequence that I'm going to be presenting to you this morning. First is the prep and sanding of the wood. I think Gary spent quite a bit of time on that last time, so I'm not going to talk about that at all today. But after that, if you want to add color, if you're going to do some stain or dye, that's the time to do it. After you've got it sanded and prepped, put your stain on. And then you're going to be going to grain fill if you choose to have grain fill. So if you have something that's an open grain, you want a grain fill, that's the time that you're going to grain fill. And then you seal, and depending on what product you use for grain fill, you're going to want to seal that up and create a base for your top coats. And then it's top coat, and then the final thing that a lot of people tend to miss is finishing the finish, the rub out and waxing or whatever you're going to do to make it really feel nice and smooth after it's done. I see a lot of people who have their projects put together, they've done a great job of building it, and then they have not, and they even did a good job on all the finishing steps, but they didn't take that last step to do a rub out and finish the finish. That really becomes a big difference. Now, I've got some boards up here I've prepped.
Just a great example of rubbing out a finish is the new MFT table. That's got a film finish sprayed on it, and then I took one corner and rubbed it out. And you just go out there and see the difference. You know, it's still got the finish, you just can't see it.
Okay, we're going to talk about rub out, and I've got a board here that's finished up to the final step, and I haven't done a rub out. I'll let you touch it first, and then we'll do a simple rub out, and you'll be able to tell the difference between the twos. Now, the products I'm going to be using, there's a number of them that you could be using, and I'll tell you what some of the choices are a little bit nasty to work with. These are not the most friendly to your lungs. So I urge, if you use the products I'm using, do them either outside or have good ventilation. I did not set up in here like I would normally do at home. I use a pop-up tent we have here. This is the one from the shop. These just open up, give you a little space to work in. Any breeze, if you're working outside, it'll keep the sunlight off, and it'll help keep a few of the bugs out. The bugs seem to love the smell of finish. They love to get into it. So if you're doing it outside, you're going to have it. Not all of us have a finishing room like Gary does.
Where is that stored?
Well, right now it's in my office, but I think we'll put it in with the finishing supplies, though. This just pop up. It's like one of the little things you take to the beach. Now, the other thing I'd suggest with this, and I urge you to do with this, particularly with these products, is we have box fans. Put a box fan right behind it so you get a little bit of airflow coming across and you don't have those fumes coming up and you're smelling them. Plus and when I talk about applying the finish, you'll learn that it's important to how we control the overspray, because I'm going to be using just rattle can finish today. It's a simple thing to use. I have an HPLP system. The same thing applies when you're doing that. You've got to have that airflow and you've got to control the overspray, otherwise you have a little mess. But this will live in the at the finishing cabinet, either inside or on top. And box fan we have in the back on the back racks. They're hard to hide, so you'll be able to see them.
But you want the box fan blowing away from the tent.
You want it on the back, behind the tent. There's an opening in those that have there's a little mesh screen in the back. You have that open, have the open flaps on the side, so the airflow is going away from you. Obviously you don't want it blowing towards you. Okay? So I'm going to talk about the products I'm going to be using today. Now, you can use a lot of things to grain fill, but I'm going to be using Glue Boost. A lot of you have used Glue Boost for repairs and for a few other things. Glue Boost is a product that was introduced to us 5 years ago at one of our general membership meetings. Never seen it before, but we had a Zoom presentation from Flexner, and he's the one that introduced us to this. And it's really changed a lot of what I do for finishing. This product is basically just CA glue, super glue, but it has a plasticizer in it. A plasticizer just allows a movement of the CA glue, whereas regular CA glue is brittle. And when the wood moves, expands, contracts, and so forth, it'll crack and shatter and get, you'll lose the clarity. Whereas with this, with a plasticizer in it, it has just a little bit of movement in it. It won't crack and it stays clear. Really nice product to use. Nasty to sniff. You don't want to breathe this stuff. So once again, ventilation is really critical. I'm going to be doing a sample board here, just a small one, and I'll be violating what I told you about having ventilation because we really don't have a good space here for it. But if you're doing this at the shop, we only do finishing and holiday gift sale and in classes, but we want to have it out by the back door in the new space and set up in the back with the door open and have that exhausting out of here so we're not smelling this stuff. Both of these chemicals will be a problem. This really works well. There's other alternatives for grain fill, many others that you can do. There's water-based products. I experimented with some I used to use a lot. I was showing Gary earlier. I'm really disappointed with the clarity I got from using that product that I had before. You can buy Mohawk, and a lot of others have commercial products that have pigments in them, and they're oil-based. They'll go into your finish. None of those, in my opinion, work nearly as well as the Glue Boost. And the reason for that is this dries clear. And so when you look at the wood, you look at the finish on the piece, you almost can see down into the grain. Whereas when you use the other finishes, the grain, you think about the bundle of straw analogy, those ends of the straw are getting filled with that material that just makes it look dark brown and kind of muddy like. Same is true, a lot of you have learned to do a sanded in finish at Palomar. That feels really nice. You grain fill, you get a really nice silky smooth feel that feels nice, but it's a muddy look when you're done. It just doesn't have the depth of the grain. I'm going to pass around just one board so you can get a sense of that. But you look at one of these with a grain fill in it, and you can almost feel like you could see down into it. So this is my favorite now, one I really appreciate having. Yes?
On that board, you have the Glue Boost?
I use Glue Boost as a grain fill. Grain fill on that. And I'll put up in the front here the one I did with the water-based product. It's nowhere near near as nice as the one you have. Okay. The other thing I'm going to be using today is for top coat. I really like to use rattle can lacquer for my top coats. It's hard, it's really crystal clear, looks really nice when it's done, and it is really a hard surface. You can get this at TH&H. A lot of the professional cabinet people and millwork people will use this to touch up. Pardon me?
What brand?
This is Mohawk. Mohawk. I'll have all these products up in front here. I buy it in gallon cans when I'm doing bigger and I'm doing spray. You can get the same product in gallon cans. Today I'm using a semi-gloss, but oftentimes I like to use a matte or a satin finish because I don't really like I'm not trying to create a piano finish on the top. I want to have something that just feels good and you really see the wood. You don't get to get all the reflection out of it. So that's the product I have. And then when we do the rub out, I'll be doing that with just a paste wax. Any of them are good. I happen to have the Mohawk. I think we've got some Liberon wax here that's really nice. I don't think there's a great big difference in the waxes, but we'll talk about that product when we get to it. So, once again, just to recap the steps, we prep and seal, sand, using all those good techniques that Gary talked about. We're going to color if we want to. Oh, that's one of the things I failed to mention. Sapelli has natural colors that are just spectacular. I really like them. But if you want to have, if you've got maple or something you want to bring out a little bit of color to, this is going to give you just a clear coat. It's not going to pop any color. It's not going to make it. If you have other woods that you want to have a little color come out, a little shellac for the coloring will help you both seal and it brings out some color. And you could use different colors of shellac. So if you don't want something that looks real pale, if you're using, you go out and get a little bit of that alder we had, it's going to be a little bit bland. You could take and put some shellac that has a little bit of color to it, or you could hit it with a little bit of dye.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The board you're passing around, does it have the lacquer, spray-on lacquer already?
Yeah, it's got 2 coats of lacquer on the top. Yeah. Okay, so the color, we're going to grain fill, you seal. Now, it's not necessary to put a sealer down when you put down Glue Boost because it's a sealer all by itself. But if you're using some other grain fill, then you'd hit it with a coat of shellac or something else to seal up the wood before you go to your top coats. So in this sequence I'm doing, I don't do a sealing and I'm not doing coloring. And there's just no need for that because the Sapelli's beautiful color and the Glue Boost gives you the seal coat to go with it. And then we do top coats, I should say, because you want to do thin ones. The one I'm passing around, I think I've got 2 coats of this on, but I'll do whatever it takes to make it look like I want it to do. Sometimes I'll mess up and I'll have to sand it back to get it smooth. I'm going to give you just a couple little tips on how to determine when to do that when we get to that point. And then the final step, as I mentioned earlier, is the rub out. Okay? So let's talk about and let me demonstrate the using the Glue Boost and just tell you a little bit about that. This board has been prepped to 220. I sanded it, broke the edges. I didn't mention that. Please, please, please break your edges. Take sandpaper, take a hand plane, break those edges. Finish does not stick to a sharp edge. I had a mentor early in my woodworking career who once said to me, he said, Dallas, your edges are sharper than your tools. And it's true. When you get them sharp, it doesn't feel good, and finish will not stick. Okay? So I've prepped it, I've sanded it, and I have it down to sanded to 220, and I did break the edges. So now we're ready for some Glue Boost. Glue Boost has 2 parts to it. It's the CA, and then many of you have used the accelerant. That makes it so you can go a lot faster. It dries quite slowly because of the plasticizer that's in it. But you hit it with this, you can be sanding in a little while. Some people say you can do it immediately. After I spray, I wait about 10 minutes or so and let it get good and hard before I put on the Glue Boost. Once again, don't do as I'm doing here in spraying without having ventilation going across. You want to have, or even using the Glue Boost without it, you want to have ventilation. 2 tools you need to apply this. You need an expensive used credit card, hotel room keys. I keep a pack of them in my garage, and paper towel. Now, most people will like to use gloves when they're doing this. Good idea. I don't. So when you put this on, you want to do it in small batches because it dries quite quickly and it soaks in. So you want to put it in small bits at a time. And I start with catching the edges, and I do that by just coming on the edge, putting it down, and I spread that with a paper towel. So I'll just catch my edge. Try and keep my fingers from being permanently stuck to the board.
Dallas, I thought Glue Boost wasn't supposed to harden unless you put the accelerator on.
Pardon me?
I thought Glue Boost did not harden until you put the accelerator on.
No, it will harden, but it's slow.
Okay.
It's very slow.
Accelerate.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah. It's based with CA glue. CA, the main hardener for most CA, the thing that will harden CA is water. So if you have wet wood, it'll harden fast. But you know, the regular spray, not this one, but the regular sprays have chemicals in there. When they hit it in there, they actually form a little bit of water that's in the chemical reaction that causes it to harden. That's how it has. But it also creates a blush because there's water coming out in it. This product, their accelerator, does not do that. So now I've done the edges. I'll come through and do one side. And I take the credit card at a low angle and just bring it along there and spread it out. And it's just amazing how the grain pops when you have that coming on. You can see how that begins to pop. And I bring it around here so everybody can smell it. And I spread on not too thick a coat. I don't like to go with thick coats. Generally I'll do 2 coats of Glue Boost, depending on, if you have something like ash, it's going to soak in a lot. So you end up maybe have to do 3, or red oak, same sort of thing. And I bring it out to the edges. Don't worry about it, get it perfectly smooth because you'll be able to sand that out. Now Gary's looking at this. I want to note there's 3 different types of Glue Boost viscosities. I use the thin for this. The thin one because it penetrates into the grain. That's what you're looking to have happen. So I pretty well spread this around. And now I wipe off my card because these are expensive and I don't want to waste them. Then I'll hit it with accelerant, and this stuff I really don't like to smell, so I'll spray it your way. And then I'll let it sit for about 10 minutes before I take it to the next step. After that 10 minutes is up, I'll sand that again. And I'll sand it with probably, first coat probably with 220. And what I'm looking for when I do that, I'm going to be looking for shinies. Any place you see something shiny, you know you're not level. That means you need to sand it back further. And that's true for each of your top coats. When you're going through, I take a light, put a raking light behind it, and I can see what I've got. I can see if there's any shiny spots, and if that happens, sand it back down level again. You'll do yourself a big favor by doing that. So,
Dallas, have you experimented with UV cure resin to do this stuff?
use what?
UV cure.
I have not used a UV cure on that. That'd be interesting to try. But the thing is, UV cure, it still doesn't have the plasticizer. And if you use regular CA in there, it'll look nice to begin with. But as soon as that expands and contracts some, it's going to start looking, it's going to lose its sheen. It's going to lose some of the thing.
Dallas,
Yes.
I see you just wiping off your hands with that stuff, so it doesn't just stay on your fingers and...
Yeah, but it stays a thin coat when I wipe it down. No, the other thing, I don't know if most of you are aware of this, but at Rockland and other places, you can buy CA glue debonder. It's a solvent. And I keep some of that in my shop too. I don't like to work with gloves. It just doesn't feel good to me. So I stick myself to a board, I put a little debonder on it, and I'm good to go.
That also eats through the,
Pardon me?
that eats through the plastic gloves. The product eats through the plastic gloves, so you still are wanting your glove to be touching the...
Oh yeah, no, and then you're gonna leave glove behind too. Yeah, so I'd rather leave a little skin behind. That's...
Acetone will clean your fingers too.
Yeah, it's just acetone. Yes.
Can you pass the Glue Boost bottle around? So
Okay, I've got a brand new bottle. I'll pass around one that's not have any anything on it. Start over here. Okay, so once you have that Glue Boost down, do as many coats as it takes to get rid of your shinies and make sure you have a good solid base to it. This doesn't look like it's got much color. This piece has been through the steps of the basic prep and 2 coats of Glue Boost. Just you can feel it's nice and smooth. I'm not going to pass around them because I'm going to use this. Just feel it.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to feel a good solid base on there is what you're going to have when you have that. And that base is what gives you that nice solid finish when you're done. But it doesn't have, it's not bright, doesn't look like anything you're really ready to present. That's not the thing.
Wow, already.
So that good hard base is what gives you that wonderful feel when you're all done. Yeah. Okay. What's that?
You finish it. You said
Well, thank you for asking. When I go to my final coat on the Glue Boost, I go then to 320. At that point, that's at the point where you want to make it feel like really nice and smooth when you're done with that. So then, once you've got it to this point, you're ready to start doing top coats. And that's one of the things. Now, rattle can finishes, you think they're simple. You just point and spray. But there's a lot of techniques that I really urge you to do. First of all, shake, shake, shake. You want to have at least a good minute's worth of shaking. It's easy to underestimate or underdo the shaking. There are solvents and different chemicals that all need to come. Just like a can of paint, you can see when you stir the paint why you need to do that. You can't see what's going on in here. But inside these cans, there's flatteners and other items that have to get completely mixed through. Particularly important with pigmented finishes. Your color at the end of a can will look different than at the beginning of a can if you don't shake well all the way through. So shake it up really well. When you're done, you want to have some good techniques. One of the most important things is making sure that you're as perpendicular to your finish as you can, not an angle. If you do an angle, you're going to get thick on the front, and it's going to be uneven. Okay? So, and you want to keep your distance. Most of these will tell you about 12 inches, and that works about well. You're too close, you're going to get puddles and streaks. You're too far out, it's going to get dry and it's going to get grainy. So you want to be about 12 inches up. When you're doing it with that ventilation, with that fan going behind you, you want to start in the front so that your overspray is going towards the back. Okay, so you want that overspray to go to the back, and then when you put down the next cover, that's going to get embedded in before it's fully dry. If you do the opposite, your overspray is going to show little dots all the way through, and it's pretty darn ugly when you're done. I like to use a Lazy Susan to do my edges. So I start with my edges first, and I'm about 12 inches away. Thin coats, by the way. Whoops, I didn't take off my blue tape. Thin coats are, more thin coats are far better than a heavy coat.
You're going to be well finished.
Okay, so then I'm starting from the back, keeping my distance. My first coat, I did about a half an overlap. Half my spray was going off, and then I come back over and I overlap each time by about 50%. I should have had you pay attention to what that board looked like before I started putting the finish on and what it looks like now. But before it looked pretty dull. Now those colors are popping. You remember it looked kind of dull before? Now it's beginning to pop. Now the nice thing about these finishes is they say on the can it's a half an hour before recoat. I give it an hour. But you can, in an afternoon with the drying time, you can easily get 3 coats on and have some really nice finish on it in a day. I did these sample boards yesterday afternoon and had no problem at all with dry time.
Do you sand between coats?
Pardon me?
Do you sand between coats?
Sand between coats. Thank you for reminding me. And I use 400 grit between my coats. And what you're doing there is you're knocking off all the nibs. You're making sure that you have it level. And once again, you're getting rid of all the shinies. Getting all the shinies. And in between coats, you get all done with that. You got to wipe it down really well after you've sanded before you go to your next coat. And use a tack cloth. Get all that dust off there. As soon as you hit any of that dust with finish, it just puffs up, and it's going to be a bump in there, and you're going to feel it. Okay, so 2-3 coats, whatever it takes to make it so you get rid of all the shinies and it has the sheen that you want, and you're good to go. Okay. Okay, rub out. When you're doing your rub out, this has had 2 coats on. You can just feel the little bumps and stuff that'll be in there. Just trust me, guys. There's little surface nibs that are on there that just don't make it feel nice and smooth and silky like you want to have. So to finish it off, I use steel wool and wax. I use 4/0 steel wool, which we have here at the shop. And like I mentioned before, I use the Mohawk wax, but Liberon, any of the good waxes will do it. And it's just a matter of taking, I just put it on gentle when you're doing this. I should have mentioned that too. When you knock these down, when you're doing your sanding between coats, that 400 grit that I'm using between, I'm not pushing hard on that at all. It's just running across the lightly. You're not trying to remove all the finish. You're just trying to move the high spots. And this is not a hard process at all. I'm not pushing hard on the steel wool. It's just enough to keep it on the surface and let the steel wool do its thing. And I get it nice, make sure I catch all the edges. Sometimes you do a good job in the center, but not the edges. I catch all the edges. I didn't do the sides on this, but just for brevity. But you would do the sides in the same way as you would everything else. I'm sorry, what?
He said 4-aught.
Yeah, 4-aught steel wool. And I'm picky on steel wool. I really like the Liberon steel wool. This is what it looks like when you buy it from Rockwell or TH&H. It's just a Liberon. You'll see 4 zeros on there. That works really well. And then a nice clean cotton, soft cotton cloth. Do not use poly. Don't use something rough. A cotton cloth. Home Depot has really good cotton rags available that work well. And then just rub it out.
Dallas, is there a wait time between the wax?
You know, you don't. There's a time you can go that's too long, but just a few minutes. You're not really trying to make it dry. I've heard people say, "Oh, you got to wait an hour. You got to do whatever." Nah, you're just trying to. It's only that surface part that you get. But when you first put that wax on, you can feel the. Yeah, it's just. It's so satisfying to get that last little piece. That's kind of your reward for all the work you have. Okay, we'll pass this piece around. So there you have it. Remember the basic steps. Prep. Make sure you do your work in advance. Get what you're going to do. Coloring is optional, but for some woods, you want to do it. Otherwise, it's going to look, particularly with this finish sequence, it's going to look kind of washed out because there's no color at all being added to these. Grain fill, if you have open grain, if you have cherry or maple, that's really not a necessary step. I should have mentioned one of the things that when I'm doing cherry or maple, then I use a different product. I don't grain fill. Instead, I'll use the sanding sealer. Sanding sealer seals the wood. It's really easy to sand off. It has a stearate in it that makes it just powder up when you sand, and it gives you a good solid base to put on your top coat. Some people will, and I have done it too. I will put this even on top of sometimes of a grain-filled piece with glue boost. I've got a friend who does that too. Just because I'm not sure that it adds a lot, but I still, it certainly doesn't hurt to fill in anything else in there. It's tempting to treat this as your top coat. It's not. It's a soft material that's made to be removed, but it seals everything up and gives you some stiffness of any fibers that don't have finish on them, so it makes them so you can shear them off when you're doing your sanding. Really nice product to have. So,
Same effect from shellac?
pardon me?
Would you use shellac as?
Oh, shellac is great too. It's just, the thing I love about this is it dries so fast and it's so easy to sand. It doesn't gum up paper. That is a professional product, and there's a reason they use it. So grain fill, seal, go to your top coats, and don't forget to rub out.